We are live now, people.
Oh,
Be
good.
careful.
Good news.
Good job you did. Well, welcome, and this is the very, very first episode of our weekly electric vehicle and sustainability news from the EV Café, with me, John Curtis, with the beardy one, Sarah Sloman, Paul Kirby. And here we are today. We're going to talk about a few things from the news for this week around electric vehicles and sustainability. And 1 year on from launching the Transport Decarbonisation Plan, the DfT set out the next steps to drive down greenhouse gas emissions from transport. And they include things like £200 million zero emissions HGV trials. Happy days, good, we need that. Zero emission vehicle mandate to ensure that the supply of electric vehicles meets the soaring demand. There's a consultation around the 4.25 tonne derogation for alternatively fueled vehicles, which Paul will doubtless have a view about because he's the van man. And we've also got things like regulating public charging, such as it's easier to pay, and the BSI, the British Standards Institute, are setting standards for best practice on accessible design of public charge points. This is all good stuff. Paul, vans, presumably you've got involved heavily in the consultation and encouraging people around this derogation. Could you explain a little bit what that's about?
Of course, John. So the derogation is when vans go on the road, they have batteries that are bigger and heavier than the outgoing ICE engines. So
internal combustion engine.
Internal combustion engine, indeed. What they've done is allow there's a cutoff at 3.5 tons in terms of maximum weight before you have to get into a load of legislation in order to be able to operate those vehicles. So when the operation happens, they were reduced on payload. So the government said, right, you can go with an alternatively fueled vehicle, i.e. a battery electric vehicle or a BEV, as it's commonly known now. You can operate it up to 4.25 tons, but there is certain hoops that you have to jump through in order to be able to do that. But it gives you
we love a hoop. We love a hoop.
The hoop. The
hula hoop.
We
love a hoop.
Yes, a little hoop. That needs to be jumped through, which is a driving license, because you can only drive a vehicle up to 3.5 tons gross vehicle weight with your current B category driving license, unless you're an old fart like me, and then you have grandfather rights to drive anything up to 7.5 tons. So the government are consulting now on making this easier.
And consultation is really, really important. The user experience is where it really kicks in, because for me, the user experience can be at times challenging. Sarah, you're currently sat 3 deep in a queue for an electric vehicle charger, I understand.
Yes, coming live from roving reporting location. #sadface. No home charger means this is a regular moment of my life. So we have the Porsche charging beautifully on the CCS. I can see from here he's at 89%, and an MG who drove so fast in front of me is now next in line for the CCS 50 kilowatt charger, which is only kicking out 43 anyway. So whatever happens, I'm here with you for the next 5 minutes.
So the user experience can be a bit challenging, but there's more to it than that, isn't there? There's very much around payment methods, RFID cards, and how you access the chargers, whether you need a card or it's contactless payment. It's really key that people get involved and respond to that consultation to let the government know.
Yes,
that's the key, John. That is the key.
This is how things change. So we've seen people come forward, and we've now got mandated contactless technology on any Rapid. Fantastic. But it's more than that. What if that contactless terminal fails? There still has to be that human point of contact where you can ring through to a helpline who can perhaps take a payment over the phone or with a virtual terminal, but also still operating the opportunity to benefit from cost savings through memberships or RFIDs for regular users. I think all of these things will come as a result of this consultation, but only if people, including fleet, get involved and say what they need to see. It should be seamless and easy, like we experienced on the GB EV rally. Flash a card at the machine, worry about the reconciliation of payment later.
Well, we're joined by our roving reporter number 3, Sam Clark. Sam from GridServe. we're talking about the charging experience, dear boy.
Are you on a
would it be fair
sunbed?
to say? Would it be fair to say that the charging experience is variable across networks and across charge point operators?
Yes, it is variable, Mr. Curtis. That's a very good choice of words. Yeah, well, everything varies, doesn't it? Varies. The power varies, the reliability varies, the locations vary. So there's, location varying, I suppose, is a good thing. That's a positive thing, because we want different types of charger in different areas, and preferably filling in the gaps where there is big spaces like Wales, for example, where we need to fill in some gaps. But yeah, it's a varied experience, and I think the market will start to sort itself out now as the number of chargers continually go up. Those that don't perform will not be used, whereas before you didn't really have a choice. Whereas now you have a choice, and people will go to where they trust and know that there's reliable charging going forward, I think.
Let's throw a curveball in here. I saw during the week lots of talk about nationalisation of infrastructure based on the cost of energy, on trains and train strikes and so on, and that nationalisation of these key assets is really important. What's your view on that, Sam? Presumably, you talk about the market will sort it out. The market's failing in lots of areas. What gives you faith in the market?
I think nationalisation of EV charging is nigh on impossible. I think it needs to be a private entity, a commercial driving forces that will encourage the sort of speed in which we need to increase this infrastructure. Where is it failing? It's failing because it's not failing. It's just that we're waking up perhaps to the principle that we need more power more quickly than we thought we did, maybe. And it's not about, as Graham Cooper often tells us, it's not about the amount of power, it's how we distribute it and where we put it. And now the government's starting to focus its efforts more on the power and the cabling and getting the power to the right places than it is funding the actual vehicles themselves, which is a positive thing. So we're helping to support the government's helping to support with funding that pushes a value towards the supply chain of energy, so that private institutions like GridServe can then put things in the ground and charge more people more quickly and more people per location, which is also a critical element.
Okay, so it's time now to get a wiggle on, because it's 9 minutes past 10. We've had 9 minutes and we've got 5 more stories in 5 minutes. Let's wiggle, people. So, ChargeSafe. We've seen that Osprey are the first network, the CPO, charge point operator, to join ChargeSafe. Sarah, talk to us about ChargeSafe a little bit, what's it's about, and our dear friend Kate Tyrrell and her man, absolutely. James Coyle.
Big up to Kate Tyrrell and James, and also congratulations, those that know what's going on there, which is fantastic. And ChargeSafe is all about an assessment, an independent assessment of chargers' accessibility, both physically but also being able to pay, but also the location of the charger with the lighting and the infrastructure, and have they thought about multiple vehicle users. So for me, it's about I just saw Paul's message, we're not following the script. No, does that ever happen? But ChargeSafe for me is a marked territory now, and we've seen lots of people talking about how important it is going to be for setting the standard for infrastructure moving forward. And congratulations to Ian Johnson and the Osprey team for being the first CPO to put their money where their mouth is, sign up and show that they are thinking about the future of EV in their infrastructure rollout.
Hang up to Kate. Now then, Paul, stop whining about not following the script. We want to talk about vans.
Confused.com.
Don't be confused, darling. We know you are. Sit back, take the meds. Scottish Water have announced that they're introducing 20 new Nissan ENV200 electric vans, Paul. Vans. Is this good news?
Have introduced. These vehicles are on the road. ENV200s, range of about 120 miles. Fantastic. Doing a little job around the Highlands and Islands and probably all over the country. It's very exciting to see a large utility adopting electric vans to support the environment. And of course, we learned at Karcher, didn't we, how important water is. So it's very important, for water and for our environment. So it's great to see that they've started doing these daily duties and using as pool vehicles and everything like that. It makes a lot of good sense to see these vehicles going into operation.
It's been another story around lots of changes to driving habits can reduce the amount of carbon that we create. And one of the pieces of information that came out was that if we reduce our commuting from 5 days a week down to 3 days a week, we could save 40% of the carbon that we generate, down from 30.6 million tonnes in transport down to 18.4 million tonnes. Still way too much, but that change in behaviour is absolutely critical. And that's the difficult thing to achieve, isn't it, behaviour change? Apart from the technology, which we're geeks about, but others get a bit scared about. It's actually behaviour change and a mindset that will help people to get into electric vehicles.
Question.
The mindset is there. Sorry, go on, Sarah.
Is that carbon calculation a kind of whole life cost calculation, or just thinking about the transport? Just wondering, because the housing stock in the UK is interesting in terms of carbon output. Wondering how to, for the next study, incorporate that. Would be a very interesting study compared to an ultra efficient office that you walk or cycle to, ?
She's good. We have broader tentacles than just transport. Anyway, back to transport. EV sales. This is really interesting. So despite long lead times in the automotive sector, more EVs have been ordered than any other fuel type in the last month. 32% of all new vehicle orders last month were battery electric vehicles. 43% of all business contract hire orders were battery electric, and 84% of salary sacrifice, which is incredible. But the bit which really gets me is that the share of new orders by fuel type tells a really interesting story. 32% of new orders were battery electric, 31% were petrol, 16% were plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, 11% diesel, only 11%. That is fantastic news for air quality. And I've got to say, I was absolutely blown away that battery electric is now selling more than any other fuel type. Incredible. What do you think, guys?
It's really great news. It really is great news. And it demonstrates the power of incentives. So within the business community, which is responsible for more than 50% of the purchases of new vehicles, we are seeing significant incentives around benefit in kind, and salary sacrifice absolutely is all focused around taking an electric vehicle, and being a tremendous benefit to you because of the benefit in kind savings. And it proves that when we incentivize a sector, and we've incentivized this business use sector of company cars, it has made a very, very big difference in the buying habits of the general public. What I would love to see is these benefits being now moved into other sectors. We were talking last week about wheelchair accessible vehicles, and there is a lot of challenge around vans and how they get used as being converted to wheelchair accessible vehicles, and also Motability operations as a fleet of 640,000 vehicles do not have this same benefit, this same incentive. And I just think it's a tremendous opportunity to help a community of people broaden the appeal so that it's more accessible and more influential outside of the business community now.
A couple of very quick announcements. Sorry, Sam, go on.
I was going to just add to Paul's summary as well. I think that the numbers are interesting, very interesting. I think the 43% share of new business contract hire orders is great, as is the salary sacrifice, and as a proportion, 84% being battery electric is phenomenal. I think we do need to be ever so cautious, however, that yes, battery electric vehicles were just more than petrol, only 1% more, and it's only 1/4. And there is a thing called Tesla, which largely distorts the market because they're electric vehicles, but what they do and when they release things make a tremendous difference to the performance of those statistics. So we do need to have whilst it's all brilliant, I'm not knocking it, I'm just saying it's only 1/4. So we do need to see a longer period of time to make this data a little bit more enriched, and therefore have greater forecasting.
You've just got to love Sam. He's the whoa Neddy. So when you get great news, there's always but be cautious. And we love you for it, Sam. A couple of other things quickly. Gigafactories. Brilliant news about British Volt getting their £100 million from the government, which will underpin their investment round to get the money they need to bring 3,000 jobs with their gigafactory on the Northumberland coast. The other great news is AMTE in Dundee, who will have the second gigafactory at the Michelin Science Innovation Park in Scotland, which is just... So the UK really sorting their lives out with gigafactories. And the other great thing, Paul, I know you love it because it's a van, allegedly, and Sam will love it because it's stylish. Sarah will love it because she can go to the West Country and she can just go and ride her bike and surf and all the things she does. The ID Buzz Cargo is announced with prices starting from only £38,125. Still a shed load of cash, but for what you get for your money, is the VW ID Buzz just the best or what?
Are you buying me one?
It's a fantastic van. I think what I mean, that's the 38,125 is quite a lot of money for a vehicle with 600 kilos payload and just 4 cubic meters of load space. So it's effectively a small van at 38,125. Will it sell? Of course it will. It's gorgeous, and you can have it in 2 colors, and it is a fantastic vehicle. I thoroughly expect in its both trim levels, of Commerce and Commerce Plus, to do very, very well into quite a niche sort of private sector market. Great range, 200 up to 256 miles potentially, and a charging port at the back of the vehicle, the bottom rear quarter, which means you can reverse. Charging port on your bottom, you can reverse into the charge ports and then drive away, which is actually probably the best way for a vehicle to be able to pull away most effectively. So that's good news. So is
it basically just the ID4, because that's 77 kilowatt hour battery as well, isn't it?
It's the same platform. It's what do they call it? Is it the MEB platform?
So you're basically telling me that I can go and do the GB EV rally and go the North Coast 500 in that instead?
No, because I will be doing that. You won't.
Whatever.
Yeah, Paul. A couple of things. I think what you just said there. One word which struck me, which isn't even a word, but Nishi.
Nishi.
I think your statistics on its payload, etc., is a little bit. People aren't going to buy this to deliver parcels in. They're going to deliver.
Correct.
They're going to buy it to go on the NC 500. So
but they'll buy the car version for that. There's a car version.
Yeah, I mean it's basically a big car, isn't it? It's a minivan, really. It's not a van in the sense of it's not a delivery van.
Definitely.
So
definitely a car.
It's far more car.
Nobody said it was a delivery van, but it is a van, and it will go into what sort of like boutique-y kind of businesses, artisan, local businesses that want to graphic up the vehicle and have an impact locally. So we're talking about a different market. Again, we were looking at the market earlier, business market. No, it's not DPD. No, it's not going to be British Gas. It's going to be Bill Jones down the road, Butchers. It's going to be this one or that one or the other one.
Yeah, it's still niche, but you're right. I think the DPDs and the others of this world, need is whether you like it or loathe them, they are where we'll get the big volume, right? So that's the thing. Correct. We also need to do. And the other thing about the reverse thing, it's great that it has a socket so you can reverse in, but what we really need is the market to do the same damn thing. So every vehicle has the same socket position, please, and make everyone's life so much easier. It will save a tremendous amount of money for us all CPOs that are constantly trying to work out how to layer and place chargers and positioning of the chargers in bays, because we've got 5 or 6 different port positions on every vehicle. So can we not do that anymore, please? That would be nice. But that's a big automotive OEM collective issue that we've got to try and solve.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think we should start a wish list. EV Cafe wish list, and that's got to be on there.
Well, we did talk about it with Edwin King from the AA, didn't we? In terms of what influence he can perhaps, or the AA can provide in terms of putting to the, and it's a European thing probably. In terms of can we have a directive to support positioning of charge points in the future in maybe 1 of 2 places, somewhere at the front, somewhere at the back, but just leave it at that. Something like that. Maybe cars at the front, vans at the back. Something along those lines. I think is pretty important.
Agreed.
There we have it. There we are. So that's the news on Friday, 29th of July. To 10 o'clock next week, where we'll do the same again, only better. Thanks for joining us. Remember that we are on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We've got the lot. We are the EV Cafe. We love you all. Titty bye.
Did you?
Couldn't hear anyone. It's so good.
Producer